a world of mystery. A world so dark that you can barely see. A world where the macabre becomes a reality, and your reality becomes the strange and unusual. This is an October edition of the Cain Stevens Paranormal Super Show.
All right, everybody. Welcome back to the Cain Stevens Super Show. I am your super host once again, Cain Stevens. And can you believe it, everybody? We have reached the spookiest times. We've reached the pinnacle of this show, which is October, everybody. It's Ghosttober. It's my spooktacular month. And I've got an awesome guest. Last year we had Johnny Hauser on from the Whiska Axe Murder House. And this year we have another amazing guest from my motherland of Iowa, where I'm originally from. but he, if you guys haven't heard of this place, we're gonna dive into it and we're gonna get you guys there, because I've investigated already at this place with my group, and I can tell you for sure that this place should be on the top of your dial for one of the most haunted places, especially in the Midwest, if not the entire country. So let's have him on right now. Let's give a round of applause for my guest, Josh Hurd, everybody.
What's up, brother? Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. So you're we talked a little bit before he came on the show. You're literally sitting at the manor right now at Malvern Manor, and you think the ghosts like it when you do podcasts and talk about them?
Dude, I don't know. Honestly, like, it makes me wonder. Honestly, it does. I do a lot of like audio work for like Audible and things like that too. So the amount of times that I have to retake different things, and oh my God, it's ridiculous because I'm hearing them running up and down just above me, in fact. But yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Do you pick up a lot of things in your audio? Like my house has some activity going on here, and I don't ever get anything though really in particular here at my house on audio, and sometimes I'll just let it run and see what happens through my denser mics. Do you get that sometimes there?
I have yet to capture what I would consider like an EVP, right? I'm waiting for the day that they're just like get right up on the mic and just be like, dude, shut up. You know what I mean? Like, that's enough.
That'll be the one, right? That'll be
Yeah.
the big EVP is, man, we're so sick of you talking about us. Just leave us alone. Leave
Just
here.
enough.
Yeah.
Just enough, man.
And let's talk about that YouTube page that you got going on. I have been a subscriber ever since I was at Malvern. I watch your videos. I listen to the things you say, and I watch your investigating there. But tell us more about what you do and why you do that.
You know, the YouTube thing is kind of just a happy little accident, if we're being honest. Like, it's more of like, if I hear something weird or see something weird, I'll just grab the camera and go. Sometimes I'm lucky enough to throw on a lav mic, and sometimes I'm not. But it's just trying to capture anything anomalous. And what's different, I guess, about the fact is that it's just a continuous shot. You know what I mean? Like, it's just a continuous shot. There's no like any jump cuts or any of that crap. I'm not trying to pull the wool over anybody's eyes. It's just, if something happens, great. If it doesn't, great. Like, we'll talk about it and see if we can correlate anything that's going on. But yeah, I mean, it's pretty basic, really, honestly.
Well, when I went there with the group, I have to give you kudos for giving one of the best opening tours of any place that I've been to. Like, you had a fantastic tour, man.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciate that, man. Like, this place, I don't know, like, me personally, I love the history of the building itself, but I also love like the paranormal happenings and all that. But man, when the two can correlate and come together like that and kind of momentarily shake hands, like, that's the good stuff for me.
Yeah.
And so I like to give people as broad of a picture as I possibly can, where it's like, this place was, like the hotel, it was the nursing home, it was a group home for mentally handicapped people, and go through that timeline with them, no matter how briefly or whatever, but just give them a sense of like how many hats this building has worn. You know what I mean? It's interesting to me.
It's definitely a recipe for a haunting, for sure. I mean, there's just so much there. I mean, obviously there has to be deaths on the property. I mean, there's even
Yeah.
an area in the hallway where you literally show us where there was blood,
Yeah.
still spattered on the walls. I mean,
Yeah.
the DNA is laying there for you to investigate and look. But why? How many people do they think? I mean, is there even a rough estimate of how many people they think might have died on the property?
Right now, I can definitively prove that 205 people lost their lives on this property. I have a list of 40 other names that I can't say yes they did, no they did not. Way more research has to be done on that, and I mean, sadly, honestly, like a lot of this stuff has seemingly been swept under the rug, so it's difficult at times um, to definitively say yes they did, no they did not. But it's like once you can find that documentation and really dig into that stuff like that. But yeah, so I mean, right now 205 for sure. I don't know if I'll ever have a definitive final number or if it'll just keep going.
Not until they tell you, right? Not until they come out and finally tell you how many.
Yeah.
They're like 8,006. You know, you're like, what does it all mean?
Wouldn't that be amazing? Like if they would just stop this stuff, stop the peekaboo stuff around the corners, stop the whispers, all that stuff. Just walk up to us, shake our hands, let's sit down and have a conversation, have a cup of coffee or something. You know what I mean?
And that's the thing for the listeners out there. I know a lot of my listeners are ghostly people, people who like the paranormal and all of that, but there are a lot of people who don't even dabble into that. You know, my mom personally, you know, she's
Mhm.
a listener of the show and she constantly tells me all the time, and maybe you've had this in your family, stop doing this stuff. You're inviting evil in your life. You're doing all this stuff. And I know that that's kind of like the stigma behind it, but when you really go on an investigation and you see what we're doing, we're trying to dig up the history. We just want definitive answers. We want to know what happens after we die. We want to. You can feel the sadness in locations. In that location in particular,
Yeah.
it's you can just feel a heaviness. You can stare out the window and you can think to yourself like, man, somebody was completely depressed, staring out these windows, feel like they're never going to go anywhere, and probably spent their last moments staring out
Yeah.
these windows. There's a sadness to it.
Definitely. Definitely. And I guess like that is something interesting, right? It's like you're getting the exact same worldview that they had day in, day out, just for a drop in the bucket of time. And but it is interesting to me. I mean, going into these types of places, I mean, we have access to buildings that the majority of the public just don't. Like honestly, like it's really cool to me. It's like, oh yeah, we went to this one place. It's like, oh yeah, I've done that. It's like, yeah, but have you been to the attic? Have you been to the basement? Have you like, things like that, or people are like, oh, that sounds really interesting. It's like, yeah, but you can't tell me what it smells like in there. You
Right.
know what I mean? Like that. It's like you're literally walking through history and you're touching history and interacting with it. It's fascinating.
Well, you got to get into the thick of it. I mean, most people who are in the paranormal community, I can't say all of them, but most of them are exactly like us. They want that. They want to experience it in the full. They want to sit in the quiet for an hour and a half and just take in the and it's not what you see on TV, everybody, okay? It's not things happening nonstop. It's not like a haunted house on Tales from the Crypt. It's not any, it's like it's a lot of sitting around and hoping something happen, talking to nobody and thinking you're completely nuts. Like my wife, when she says she'll go on investigations with me, she hasn't really yet. But she says the first thing is I don't want to talk to something that's not there. I said, leave it to me, babe. Like I talk to myself at home when you're not here, so it's not a problem to me.
I got this.
Let me talk for you. Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing, man. I love that.
So
That
when
is,
are you alone there a lot? I mean, do you spend a good majority of your time just there alone before like the tours and everything start?
yeah, definitely. Like I said, like I mean, I'm usually here fairly early in the morning. I'm usually, I mean, sitting right here and recording an audiobook or something like that, just working. And then yeah, come like noon, you open the doors, you let people in and walk them around and all that fun stuff, and then check in your overnight group, and then I get to go home for the day. But yeah, it's interesting, man. It keeps me on my toes, that's for sure. But a lot of the time that yeah, like I am in this building alone. And I mean, it's 10,000 square feet, so there's a lot of room to cover. And And sometimes you're just not in the mood. You know what I mean? Like sometimes like you're just like, oh my God. Um, it's weird, but I mean, I do have a nice little lock on my door here of the studio that I'll use a lot. But I mean, I don't know. Like, not that a lock is going to help at all, but I mean, it helps me mentally. So
Sure.
there's that.
Well, it's kind of your safe space, right? I mean, when I went there, you and I, we BS'd in your office for a
Yeah.
while. It was cool. And
Yeah.
I really do appreciate you bringing me in there because I could tell that's kind of like a safe haven for you where you do a lot of, just like my studio here. This
Yeah.
kind of like when I shut the door, this is like, oh man, I can finally breathe and just kind of do my thing.
Exactly. It's just like a home away from home. You know what I mean? It's like, this is perfect for me. It has all my junk
Yeah.
in it. It's sporadically just kind of scattered about and things like that. And in my own brain, it's organized chaos, I suppose. But yeah.
Well, I had equipment envy too. We have a lot of equipment, and I built a spirit box myself,
Yeah.
and but I had spirit box envy because you had one of the cool ones. Like it's the same thing, but like I need to like dress it up and make it kind of like make it my own. I really love the one you had, man.
Dude, I have a buddy. He's a local guy. He lives in like Council Bluffs, Iowa. His name is Travis Wazotsky. And I mean, he's got this really cool stuff that it's called like Net Echo.
Okay.
But he makes these things. He makes little pieces like that are just like the guts of REM pods that we're putting into like packs of cigarettes to use as like a trigger object. And I mean things like that. His brain is nonstop. It's always going. Um, but it is really cool just because like he's the one that made all that stuff. I could never do that myself. No, there's no way.
Man, it's cool stuff though. I mean, especially like the make your own REM pod kits, with the theremin, kits and all that stuff. It's super
Yeah.
cool. Like I know a lot of people are making like little coffin box ones,
Dude,
and,
yeah,
and I just think it's so damn cool, right? Because I mean, who wants to spend $100 online when you can spend substantially less to something that you actually made and it works around the same.
Yeah, and it's your own idea, it's your own design, it's whatever. It's really cool because man, yeah, you're right though. Like going online and trying to find some of this equipment,
Yeah,
they're very proud of that stuff.
they are.
There was one really cool piece of equipment. I didn't purchase this. I will say that a buddy of mine, Mike Brothers is his name. He brought it here and let me borrow it, but it's just a dead bell. And this dead bell, it's very simplistic in nature. It's an EMF detector, basically, but when it's sensing an EMF trigger, it rings this bell. And again, very simplistic. I mean, but it's like $300
Yeah,
online. I'm like, I'm not spending that kind of money.
no.
Like, no way.
It is very cool. Yeah, I mean, I would love to have like obviously everyone. It's a guilty pleasure. I can't say everyone,
Yep.
but a lot of people will watch Ghost Adventures and different things, and they'll see all the gear that they have, and we'll just sit there. And I'm a nerd, so most times I just watch it to laugh. I love the historical parts they at least do at the beginning. That's the best part, and then I like to watch all the gear that they use. So
I love that.
let's talk shop for a little bit. Like, let's talk about gear because I don't think the listener has any idea what the hell we're even talking about. Let's talk about what you think is the validity of some of these things and why they work and what, like a REM pod, for example. Okay.
Yeah. So, I mean, a REM pod is basically just like, I mean, if we're talking about just a traditional REM pod, it's just almost like a can, right? And a can with a metal antenna sticking out the top of it. All it's doing is emanating a field around it that obviously we can't see. But if anything were to get close in proximity to that pole, I mean, it's and break that field, it's going to alarm in some way. What's really cool about those REM pods too is that they're also able to pick up on like temperature fluctuations,
Right.
which is that is awesome. But it's like, yeah, if you can start to like correlate, oh, there's a temperature drop. Oh, now it's hitting. Oh, there's an EMF spike of some sort. Like that's really freaking cool. Like I would suggest, and then yeah, there's certainly something legitimate going on with that. Um, but yeah, I mean, as far as like some of the equipment, it's like a lot of the equipment that I enjoy using is, like an EMF detector, for an example, was never intended for paranormal purposes. It was intended for electricians to find live wires, things like that. So they didn't get freaking zapped on the job. Um, that's cool stuff to me. It's like being able to theorize that all we're trying to find are disembodied pockets of free floating energy. What better of a device to use to find something like that? Um, but then, of course, you have all the caveats that come along with it, right? Like, oh, yeah, well, your cell phone was on and you got a text message and that just sent that thing screaming. Um, there's all sorts of things like that that can happen. Um, and so we tried, I mean, we do our best, as good little paranormal investigators or whatever would do, that we try to leave the cell phone in another room or put it in airplane mode or just turn it off completely. We try to do all of these things to try and, I guess, foolproof it in some way or future proof it, and not get false positives, because that sucks. When that happens, it's kind of heartbreaking. But yeah.
Yes, especially with like the spirit box, for example. A lot of people, they put a lot of validity in the spirit box, but they don't understand. Okay, if like you can get the radio to come through at certain sweep rates. I mean, you're sweeping the
Absolutely.
radio, and so some people will mistake every single thing that comes through as,
Yes.
oh my gosh, they're trying to communicate with me, but that's not
Right.
the case. You have to read up on what this stuff does and
Yeah.
try to figure out. I mean, I went as far as to take my antenna out of my SB7.
Yeah.
Super easy fix. You pop the screws, you get in there, you pop the antenna out, you put it back together,
Yep.
and then I have less interference with that. But I also get a lot of nothing comes through, which is fine.
Yeah. And say, I think that's perfect too, man. Like, honestly, I tell people to do the exact same thing. Take the antenna out of the equation
Yeah.
and even maybe throw it in a freaking Faraday cage, something that's literally going to block radio signals. So it's like whatever is coming through that device is going to be more legitimate, in my opinion. Of course, you probably could even have some outliers, of course, sure. But like, statistically speaking, you're way above the game. So if something were to happen, then I mean, good Lord, like that's impressive as hell.
Well, between that and a noise gate on it to block.
Yes.
I mean, it's like, what are the odds? I mean, we're talking
Right.
over 1 in 1 billion
Exactly.
coming through this thing and being so loud that you can hear it. And so when it does, and it answers your question in a
Yeah.
way with a name, something that makes sense, intelligent. I mean, you have to admit, like, it doesn't matter if you're a skeptic. It doesn't matter if I don't believe in ghosts. There's no such thing. You can't tell me that that's not a way crazy coincidence that can be solved immediately, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I love that. That the one thing I will say is that there are certain pieces of equipment that obviously we don't know exactly what goes into making it. So just for an example, like the dead bell that I was just mentioning, right? I mean, it's just a bell, and on paper, what happens is an electromagnetic disturbance will trigger the bell to ding. That's it. And so on paper, fairly simplistic. However, I wasn't in that room when that dude was putting that thing together. I didn't come up with the prototypes or any of that crap. I have no idea what the guts are in this thing, right? And I'm sure we could rip it apart, but again, it's not mine and I don't want to do that. But still, it's interesting to me because like I was using it yesterday and it would go off, and sometimes it would go off like 3 or 4 times, like just bing, 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 bing. And I'm like, oh my God, like that's crazy. It's on the lowest setting that I could have it on. Because again, I'm trying to eliminate false positives, but it wouldn't alarm then for 5 minutes, 6 minutes, 7 minutes, whatever. And I was like, well, is there some kind of a timer or a randomizer, or is there something in there that's making it trigger every once in a while just for the hell of it? I don't know. I certainly hope not. Um, but I don't know. I don't know. Like it's interesting to me. It's a cool piece of equipment, but there's a lot more that needs to be looked into, I think.
It's great to have. The important thing about being an investigator is you're in. The key word here is investigator. Okay,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
therefore you have to be skeptical of everything, even though you're a believer. You guys out there, you people who are like amateur ghost hunters and people just want to chase ghosts and do this type of stuff. That's all fine and dandy. Just know that
Yeah.
there has to be some skepticism there. You have to it's like, okay, for example, the necrometer. Okay, you can
Yeah.
connect your spirit box to Bluetooth devices, and I do that too sometimes.
Yeah.
Just I like to test it out. I can't say where I'm getting the responses. I can't say where it's coming from, but I know that sometimes it is intelligent, and so then a lot of people will say to me, "Well, it's listening to your conversations, and it's spitting out this stuff." Well, I can't say it's not, but therefore, but I have to have the skepticism high, but I also have to look at what are the odds? What are the odds of
Yeah.
answering my question exactly?
See, and that's the fun stuff to me too, is when it's a direct response, it's like, okay, now what are the odds of that happening? Right. And of course, like you just said, you're always skeptical, but at the same time, it's like there are certain times where it's like, yeah, you have to just be like, holy shit, that was amazing,
Yeah.
super cool.
Well, like this, for example, when we were getting ready to investigate at Malvern, we were sitting outside and I'm testing the equipment, which I always do. So I like to initially put on the spirit box, just kind of sweep it around, maybe check the Bluetooth side too, see if something's coming through. And I instantly, within like a couple minutes of just sitting there on the porch, I get something that tells me to F off. And I mean,
Yeah.
it was as clear as day. I mean, they're like everybody else heard it, and everybody's like, "Oh my gosh, did that just say F off?" And I'm like, "Yeah, yeah." And I'm like, obviously, whatever is here instantly doesn't like what I'm doing.
And it's interesting to me too, because like getting something to tell you to F off on a radio scanner, you're not going to hear an F-bomb dropped on a radio station. Absolutely not.
No.
Unless that radio station has a death wish. You know what I mean? Because everybody's always listening. So yeah, like no, you're not going to hear something tell you to F off just on a radio station. So that to me, the profanity is some of the most legitimate pieces of evidence that we could possibly get because of those outliers like that.
Exactly. But the skeptic out there is going to be the skeptic no matter what. I mean, there are just certain people. A lot of them I call they're religious superstitious. A lot of them I
Sure.
call different. I do respect their opinion. I respect everybody's opinion. I wish people would open their minds to the idea that this is a supernatural world. I mean, even if you read into the Bible, the Quran, all of the Torah, all of this stuff, they're talking about supernatural elements that no one can explain or understand. So is it that weird to think that ghosts are roaming the earth? Do I think they're all demons and angels? No, I just have no idea what they are, which keeps me curious and keeps me doing what I'm doing.
Yeah, absolutely. I wrote a book specifically kind of geared towards that, just because of it. I called it Ghosts in the Bible, just because of that simple fact that I was getting a lot of people that were like, "Oh, you're doing the devil's work. This is that. This is You're not dealing with deceased loved ones. You're actually dealing with something demonic, right?" And I was like, "Yeah, it doesn't feel like that to me. It feels like just a legitimate conversation between two people, really. Like honestly, just you can see me and I can't see the other." Um, but you're absolutely right, man. Like there are some very interesting paranormal texts that are out there that we still revere to this day. The Bible being right at the top of that list. But I mean, the Bible says a lot of things. You know what I mean? Would consider myself a Christian,
Yeah.
but I'm not going to. I mean, I believe in God, absolutely. I believe in a creator, of course. I believe that there was a man named Jesus Christ who once walked the earth. Absolutely. Do I believe he was the, God incarnate? Absolutely. Yes, I do. I believe that stuff. There's a lot of evidence to suggest that that actually happened. But the Bible does say a lot of things. Like the Bible is an interpretation of another interpretation of another interpretation of a dead language that hasn't been used in 2000 years. There's a lot of room for error there. And I mean, not to get too heavy or whatever, but I mean, it does. I mean, in the Bible, it says that slavery should be condoned. It says you shouldn't eat shellfish. So the next time your church has a clam bake, you know what I'm saying? Like maybe think about that for a second. Like, are we, like there are things, like there's always things.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, I don't know. Like it says a lot of things.
It does, and when you get into it, I mean, I'm glad that you're willing to, get on it. I admit to people too. I mean, I'm a Christian. I don't have any problem with it. I might be
Yeah.
an Orthodox type of Christian.
Exactly.
The things I do not track with what people say, but I have a strong belief. I don't push it on people, but I do
Yeah.
like to talk to people because I like to look at these books in these texts as historical books. There's a reason why they made it this far, why so
Yes.
many people have followed it so many thousands of years. There's a reason for that.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. And
Like,
that's just it. I
yeah,
love that stuff.
don't forget about Moby Dick, in 100 years or so. But they're
Yeah.
going to be talking about the Bible. They're still going to be talking about the Torah and all of these things. So I mean, there has to be something to that, some validity to the history.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, man. Yeah, I think we're right on the same page with that. You know what I mean? For sure.
So I got to get into it with. I got to ask you, why ghosts with you? Why did you get into the paranormal? Did something happen to you that was so profound that it drew you to it? Give me your story on that.
So I was always the weird kid in class, right? I was always the one reading like the spooky stories to tell in the dark, those books. All my friends are just reading like Boxcar Children and lame stuff like that, but whatever. But still, I was always like interested in like weird stories and things like that. But I mean, honestly, it wasn't until, gosh, I think I was 12 years old, maybe 13 years old. I had an uncle who he's quite young. He was only 31 years old. Um, but he passed away of AIDS. And like during the dying process and all that stuff, there was some very interesting things, like one of those really cool deathbed type stories that happened. And so that got me thinking. And then as I'm listening to my grandfather tell the story of my uncle's final moments, we were sitting around this table. And I mean, everybody's just completely beside themselves. We're all crying. We're all just whatever. And right off of the dining room, there's this staircase that leads up into the second floor. But I mean, the only things that were up there were toys for us kids, you know. This little radio comes like tumbling down the steps, and it was one of those little wind up jobs. Um, and it came down the stairs, slid onto the floor, and started playing Somewhere Over the Rainbow, which was also one of his favorite songs. It was played at his funeral. I mean, all of that stuff. So it was almost like we all sat there in stunned silence and we're laughing and we're crying at the same time. And it was like one of those weird, profound moments. And I had then enough family time or whatever. And so I took myself out of the equation. I walked home and I took a shower. Get done with the shower. I'm walking around the house and instantly, like, I'm chilled from head to toe. All the hair is standing up on my body, all that stuff. And I smelled his cologne, which was a very potent and I don't even know. It was interesting to me because I had never smelled that cologne since. I had never smelled it before or since. I don't even know if they still make it, in fact. But there was no doubt in my mind. I was like, holy crap.
Yeah.
And I said, Todd. And then hair goes back down. It was almost like he was just briefly stopping in to say, hey,
Right.
like it's good. Like it's all good. I was hooked. At that point in time, I was absolutely hooked. Something far bigger than us is going on. I started diving into weird parapsychological studies from like the 50s and 60s. I'm reading the works of Hans Holzer. I mean, even Ed and Lorraine Warren's case files, things like that. But I am just devouring as much information as I possibly could. Gosh, it really wasn't until like, I was 16, 17, I started kind of dabbling in this and like going to a graveyard or that or whatever. And then it wasn't until college where it's like, oh, there's this show called Ghost Hunters now. And these guys are just, plumbers by day. And then they do this by night. And well, crap, I could probably do that. And
Yeah.
found some like-minded individuals and they all just kind of joined me on this crazy adventure. But yeah.
And that's why, I mean, everybody's journey is different. And I appreciate you telling your story.
Yeah.
We all kind of have a story or a journey as to why we love the paranormal. I was like you. I was always consuming the spookiest stuff. I was a weird kid. I'm the black sheep kid of the family where I'm interested in all the strangest things. And that's okay. Like, I just have a different mind. You and I are probably pretty similar. But
Yeah.
certain things, I've lived in hauntings. I've been, what really set me off, and I've told this story 1,000 times on the podcast, but is when I got touched when there was nothing there. When I got grabbed on my ankle and pulled backwards,
Jeez.
and I was like, and I didn't think this stuff really happened, to be honest with you. I mean, as much of the stories as I just thought to myself, there's no way something would have the strength as a ghost to do that. But it physically happened to me. I was in a room with my girls. I was putting them to sleep. There's no one behind me. The door was completely shut. There's no way someone could have grabbed me on my ankle and pulled me backwards. I'm a big guy too, so it's something with a little bit of strength. And it wasn't just that, but this house had so much going on, from shadows that blocked out dark rooms, that you could physically make out what it was. Everything that you can think of, from things moving in the basement when they shouldn't, toys going off on their own, synchronous, whatever you want to say, in sync. And then it's just like, man, to me, that was enough. And that I was already a believer then when that happened. But once I was in the haunting, have you been grabbed or touched? And if you have, how did it make you feel? Because to me, it turned my whole world over. Like, wow, there is even more than I even thought now, because they can touch us too.
Yeah. And that's what I'm a lot like you, I guess, in the fact that I was always thinking to myself, I'm like, well, how can they touch us? Like, how is that even possible? Because you always hear the ghost stories. Oh, they went right through the wall. They went right through the door. They just, you know what I mean? It's like, well, obviously there's no mass then, right? If they can just do that.
Yeah.
But it's like, that's weird to me. I remember specifically getting what I kind of jokingly say open field tackled. But I mean, my feet went up. My back was the first thing that hit the ground. I mean, I hit hard, and it knocked the wind out of me. And I was more wigged out than in pain. I didn't even care about the pain. I was like, what the hell just happened? Because like you said, it kind of opens up this whole other world of possibilities, and you're like, oh crap, like if they can do that, what else can they do?
Right.
And it's bizarre, but I'm always asking myself the same types of questions. How do they do that? And then, like, how are we getting EVPs? Or moreover, how are we getting disembodied voices that we can audibly hear with our own ears? It's like ghosts don't have voice boxes. So how are they manipulating the molecules in the air, that the bending and stretching of molecules that we perceive as sound? How are they influencing that? Because therein lies a whole other world of possibilities. It's amazing to me.
It is amazing. I often wonder to myself, is there a certain amount of time between when we die to who knows when we are able to wander this area, like maybe there's like a certain period where we just haven't disappeared or got. I mean, I think we go back to the universe. I think the universe is all
Yeah.
one. You can call the universe God, you can call it whatever, but it all makes sense,
Sure.
doesn't it? It's all part of it. And so, don't you think, like, I've had a friend who died, and a few
Mhm.
days later, we're getting knocks in the middle of the night, and I just flat out ask, is this Andy? That was his name. And if it is, please knock, and I'll be damned if the thing didn't knock.
Really.
Telling me, and it makes me wonder, like, is there a certain point where these people want to visit us and say, hey, it's okay, I'm all right? What do you think?
It does seem like there is a period of time. I lost a friend as well, and it was the most insane crap going around in my house, which this man knew he was dying. And he also told me he was going to mess with me pretty good when the time came. And he held true to his word. But I will say it did stop, it did subside, and all of that. Now, God, man, like, I feel like I'm going down this religious rabbit hole with you, and I apologize.
Oh,
But no,
please do. It's
it's
okay.
interesting because in the Bible itself, right? It says like all souls will be judged on the same day, living and dead, all souls. Um, and so if you go into the Catholicism type of area, you have heaven, you have hell, you have this weird holding area called purgatory, and it makes me wonder if this just isn't that, or what have you. Um, and I don't know. Um, but it's an unsettling thought to think, I will say, to think that those that we have lost before aren't in heaven or aren't somewhere. It's not a good feeling because we want to think like, oh, everything's better now, everything's fine now. Um, and maybe in their sense of time, I don't believe that on the other side there is a concept of time because time is a very man-made thing. And so I don't think I could go either way on this. I think that when we do die, those that have gone before us are going to be waiting for us to welcome us with hugs and handshakes and back slaps and pats on the butt or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Like all of that stuff. I think that is 100% true. And I also think that it is quite feasible that at the same time, they may be somewhere. They may be hanging out somewhere. Um, I mean, hell, if I'm given the option, you can find me at the 50-yard line of the Super Bowl. You know what I'm saying? It's like, I don't know what to think. And again, it's an unsettling thought. These are also the thoughts that I entertain on occasion. Because ultimately, that's what we're all after. That one question: what happens? What is it? What happens after this? What happens to us when we die? That is the only question.
Exactly. Man, I can only imagine like, standing at like WrestleMania with like the Ultimate
Yes.
Warrior and like all of my favorite wrestlers as we're watching
Yes.
this thing happen would be unreal, man.
That would be amazing, right?
But to get serious again, if you look at near death experiences, I watch a lot of NDE
Yeah.
videos and things, and they're fascinating to me. It's not, I have heart problems. I almost died 5 years ago due to heart problems, and so some might look at me. I have a pacemaker. I have some heart failure. Some might look at me and go, "Oh, well, he's just interested in it because he's afraid of death." I think that a lot of this stuff actually makes me okay with the idea. I think that I understand the more that I do these investigations that there is so much going on. My biggest fear was always that there was nothing, right? Like
Yeah,
like what's the
exactly.
point of any of this of all the hurt and pain, and then we just our eyes close and we're done. Like that was the biggest scare to me.
And that is the most terrifying idea is that we just blink out of existence.
Yeah.
That is horrifying, in my opinion. But like you said, man, like going through all of this stuff and doing this all the time, like it just validates it more. It's like something else is coming after this. Like we continue in some way, we are going to continue on. Um, and that's comforting as hell to me, man. I love that thought.
It is, and the idea, like you said, I think you truly do see the people that, family members, all that type of thing. I mean, they talk about it in near death. I had a guy on the show who died like 20 some times in
Gee,
one summer. He had heart issues. They couldn't figure it out. I think he's from Canada. And anyways, his name's Fred Rutman. You should check out his book, everybody. But
yeah.
he just his heart just kept stopping, and then he would come back, and it was just like every time he's like, man, it was like a car starting hard each time you come back.
Oh my gosh.
But he told me the profound thing about it was he didn't get tunnel walk. He didn't get that, oh my gosh, I saw grandma and everything.
Mm-hmm.
But he said that there's definitely something going on there, but he died so quickly and came back that it was like hard, it was like a split. It seemed like a split second.
Yeah. 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 I know of a gentleman who technically, I guess, was expired. I mean, he was dead. And it was a very long amount of time. And I mean, like, it was 20 some odd minutes that he was gone, basically.
Yeah.
He did not have a good experience,
Oh,
like, afterwards. It was, not your family members waiting to greet you with butt slaps and things like that. It was quite the opposite, in fact. And I mean, it scared him to the point where, I mean, he changed everything around. You know what I mean? He's like, I've got it now. I've got it now. I know why I'm here. Like all of that stuff. And I love watching those videos as well. Um, seeing what people have gone through and hearing their experiences, and just like that transition period, because it's almost like they're almost dipping a toe and then pulling it right back,
Yeah.
But man, like I certainly don't want to experience what that guy did. That's for
Not
sure.
at all. And maybe he needed that in his life. Maybe
Exactly.
he needed that big change. I mean, I look at my past of drugs and alcohol and the crazy life that I lived before. Maybe he needed that shake, just like I needed that shake in my life, that near death type thing where I was getting close to death, things were going wrong, to really straighten out my life. It's really hard to tell. I don't think if we want to get religious, I don't think if there is a God, and I believe there is, I don't think it's this almighty, oh, I want to punish the people type thing. I truly believe that a God, if you want to believe that, is a God of love, and that a lot of the crazy atrocities that have happened throughout history are just the nature of man. Man can be very evil. There's bad people out there.
There really is, man. Like there really is. But I'm with you there too. It's like, yeah, like you have like kind of like two different gods, right? You have like the Old Testament type stuff where it's like very vengeful, very wrathful, and all of that stuff. And then everything chills the F out.
Yeah.
And it's like, and here comes Jesus. And now it's like all this peace and love and understanding is a big one. Letting people do what they're gonna do, whether you agree with it or not. Like it's none of your business. You know what I mean? It's cool. It's good stuff to me.
Jesus is kind of like this chill hippie dude that just shows up in basically Jerry Garcia, and he's playing his nice easy little blues licks and just kind of like peace, love, and all that thing, isn't he?
Yeah, dude, that's so great.
Well, we're gonna come back here. I no longer tell you guys I'm sorry for the sponsors, because the sponsors are helping this show out and they're helping a lot of you guys out. So please don't fast forward through all those Elegant Sasquatch commercials and all that stuff. Stick around, everybody. We'll have Josh Hurd back in a moment. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, get ready to rumble with the Ultimate Beard Care Showdown. Introducing our headliner, the one, the only, Squatch.
Oh yeah, Mean Jim. Squatch in the house, and I'm here to tell you about beard products that'll make your whiskers the talk of the town. If your beard's ready to take on the world, you need the power of our beard balms, butters, and oils, brother.
That's right, Squatch. Let's kick things off with the Beard Balm of Legends.
This beard balm is like a body slam for your beard. It tackles those wild hairs and smooths them out, making your beard look like $1,000,000. No sweat, brother.
What's the scoop with the beard butter?
Oh, brother, it's a game changer. This butter makes your beard softer than a cloud and as easy to manage as a well-oiled wrestling machine. Plus, it's got a scent that's as sweet as victory. Oh, yeah.
And let's not forget the beard oil.
The beard oil is the final knockout punch. It hydrates, shines, and smells like a championship belt made of cedar and pine. Your beard will be the 1, 2, 3 of any match.
Where can our fans score these unbeatable products?
You read my mind, brother. Head on over to elegantsasquatchco.etsy.com and grab your beard gear. And listen up. Use the code Super Show and get a jaw-dropping 20% off. That's right, 20% off. Your beard's about to go from 0 to hero, brother.
That's elegantsasquatchco.etsy.com and use your code Super Show for 20%. Don't wait, make your beard the ultimate champ today. Ahoy, mateys! Christopher Columbus here. You know me. I discovered America, or at least that's what the history books have been saying for years. Anyways, I have a little confession to make. My compass quit halfway through the trip, and I got lost at sea on the way there.
Ahoy, Captain. What direction should we point the boat?
Shut up, you fool. I'm in the middle of a commercial here. Anyways, what was I saying? Oh, yes. When we arrived on land there, the natives were all decked out in their cool Viking gear. They said these big, smelly, bearded guys came, hung out, then split with all their cool stuff.
Hi, it was a weird day.
That could have been our cool stuff. We could have claimed all this great treasure and all this pirate's plunder.
But sir, how will we steer the boat if we don't have a compass?
Well, this next trip is going to be different. I'm heading to Slying Tattoo to get a compass on my hand. After that, everything is coming up Christopher Columbus.
Ahoy, sir. That new ink looks great on you. After I swaps the poop deck and grease the hootenannies, I think we're gonna be back to sped and... Oh, no.
What is it now, you buffoon?
It appears as if America's shores are just on the horizon.
What? How could this be? I've been pointing my arm in the same direction for days. Well, looks like this tattoo compass is broken too. Guess I'll have to head back to Sly Ink for that dolphin lower back tattoo I've been wanting to get. Well, looks like our native friends are waving us in, but oh, wait, they don't look very happy. Well, until next time, friends, if there is one. All right, everybody, I hope you guys enjoyed the Elegant Sasquatch commercial. We've got plenty of commercials coming up. Also, don't forget about Sly Ink Tattoo here in Lincoln. Bryce is a fellow investigator with me with Debunked Paranormal, and don't let the name fool you. We're not out to debunk everything. We just are looking for answers. So, but Bryce, when it comes to tattooing, I can tell you personally that even though I have these lame tribal tattoos that I got when I was 16, he can do so much better than that. He can cover it up. He can do it all. So if you want that dolphin diving through the rainbow and everything, he will hook you up with that. We also have Roots Music Shop, everybody. Check out Roots. Go get those instruments fixed. Tell Ryan that Cain sent you, and I swear he's not going to chase you off with a pitchfork and a torch. He's actually going to give you some great prices on instruments. So get over to Roots Music. So I have an awesome guest. You guys have already been watching, but now you're going to continue to watch because you want to hear us talk back and forth to each other about all this cool stuff. We have none other than Josh Hurd from Malvern Manor. Josh, welcome back.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Man, that was those are tongue twisters. I'm getting used to tongue twisters, but
Oh man, unique New York.
I just sit in my studio all the time and just like try to enunciate words. Like the word I butchered earlier, I was trying to get to a certain word and I just couldn't. So I'm sure that I doubt it makes the cut on this particular word. But so, man, I know that you do a lot more than ghost hunting. And so this show is a paranormal show. And I know in particular, like this month, we're talking all paranormal. But I do want to talk about your music because you're also an awesome musician. Let's talk about music, why you got into it, and what you've been up to.
Oh, my gosh, man. So I remember specifically, I was playing basketball. And I think it was like my sophomore year of high school. I've always loved music. And I honestly, I would sing constantly. To everything. And I remember it was like Beach Boys was the big one because of the harmonies. Like, oh my God, I was blown away by harmonies. And just different things like that. Huey Lewis and the News was big for me too. I don't know why, but it was just massive. But yeah, like I was my sophomore year, my friend stepped on my foot when we were playing basketball and it broke my foot. And so I couldn't play basketball. And I'm just kind of laid up and I'm sitting in my room, and I had just gotten a guitar for my birthday, and I just started learning chords and making it sound pretty. And then I was like, okay, well, now I can maybe try to learn a song or something. So I'd pick a song on the radio and try to make the guitar sound like the radio and just kind of do that. So I guess like I never took any formal lessons or anything like that. You know what I mean? Like just none of that. I'm no good at that. I'm way too ADHD probably to sit down for that stuff. But yeah, I mean, now it's like, it's just been in, bands and stuff. And I mean, I was in a band in my early 20s, mid 20s. We did some touring and things like that. We recorded a few tracks. I mean, nothing major or anything like that, but yeah, it was fun. It was a lot of fun. And then ever since then, it's just been like cover band type stuff. You know what I mean? Just playing anything we want, really. So yeah.
So do you like the cover? I too was in cover bands, and I know a lot of musicians, real musicians, knock the cover band scene. But man, there's something to be said about doing covers and playing them tastefully, playing them your own way, kind of getting like a groove going, and just making people dance and happy. Like that's why I love music. Is maybe I'm kind of like the sad clown over here on the side, just trying to make people make people smile, that sort of thing.
I love that too, man. And I almost enjoy doing the cover stuff more than I did the original stuff, to be fair. Like I just like right now, the band that I'm in, we're just called JB Acoustic. It's Josh and Brad, and that's it. It's me with an acoustic guitar, my friend Brad, who has a drum set. We both sing. That's the band. That's it. We play everything from Garth Brooks to Tool, whatever we're in the mood for, or whatever the crowd is kind of like, we kind of feel that out. But we have a list of like 200 songs. Go for it. You know what I mean? Just whatever you're feeling right now, go for it. Yeah. And if it's pulled back and it's more of an intimate coffee type bar type setting, it's like, yeah, you know, we're going to be playing just the shit out of Counting Crows and things like that. You know what I mean? Absolutely. But yeah, I love that stuff. And REM, you know what I mean? And again, Tool. I love Tool, you know, all that stuff. But yeah, it's just whatever you're feeling in the moment.
Do you guys make it to Nebraska at all? I mean, currently I'm in Lincoln, Nebraska. Do you guys ever, cross the old Missouri River and come on over here?
We've played in Lincoln a couple of times, and I'm trying to remember the name of the bar, but it was the downtown area. They said there was 2 of them, and we were in the one with this bigger stage area or whatever. It was big. It was a big bar.
Yeah.
Man, it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun. And we played at Memorial Stadium a couple times. And that I remember that specifically because it was early in the morning, and we played before the Iowa-Nebraska game, which sucked because they insisted I wore Nebraska gear, which I can't do, man. Like, I'm a Hawkeye guy, you know what I mean? But here I am, I'm in my Husker gear, and everybody's laughing at me. We played the show, and then we tore everything down, went across the street to Pinnacle Bank Arena there, and played another show then just that afternoon. I was completely dead after that day. But yeah.
I can only imagine. See, for me, I live in Lincoln, but I'm a Hawkeye fan. I was born in So like all of my Nebraska friends, they hate me because I don't have any problem telling them how I feel about Nebraska football. I've seen my share of games. Like when I was a kid, I sold programs down at the stadium. I mean, I went to every game. Like me and my friend, we were a couple of adorable little chubby kids selling. So of course, everyone who had an extra ticket could give us the nosebleeds every single week.
Yep.
So I saw everything. But man, just being a Hawkeye fan here, I just love college football. I mean, I'm pumped about it. It's great to talk to another Hawkeye fan. Husker fans out there, don't puke and turn this off right now. I mean, it won't be a Hawkeye jerk fest, okay? We have to like at least acknowledge the fact that we both love the Hawkeyes.
Yeah, absolutely. I will say that like the Husker fans that day freaking brought it. I will say that when we were playing music, it was like literally 9 o'clock in the morning, and they were ripped and ready to roll. Like it was crazy. So
they're fantastic. I mean,
they are.
I want to give them crap.
Yeah.
I ran a really terrible meme page called Hawkeye Memes, and I made a lot of terrible memes about about certain things. I won't say I made fun of the fans, but maybe I made fun of some different people, my wife and everybody else around me. Yeah, and amazing. But they really are great fans. Like I could say every time I go, even when I go in my Hawkeye gear, usually everyone's pretty cool. You're always going to get the drunk guy. It's like, oh, who's the dumbass that came from Iowa? You know, but it's like, dude, my team is here too. Like, what are you talking about?
Exactly. Exactly.
The trick, Josh, is you got to take like my wife. You got to take a beautiful lady, you know, with Husker gear on and use them as a shield. So like if
That's
the
fair.
riot happens, you just kind of like push them down in front of you, and then you run off the other way.
Dude, that's a good idea. Oh my god, man, that's amazing.
Well, no, I would love to see you out here, man. And my offer still stands. I know a lot of people here in the music business here because I played for so long. So I would definitely love to, if you guys wanted any gigs or whatever, I would obviously put you. I'm also on a music podcast now where we pump up local talent and everything called Scratch the Vinyl here. So it'd be cool to talk to you about music and everything. We talk to anybody, so this is awesome.
That's really cool. Yeah, man, I love music. It's always been a thing. You know what I'm saying? Always.
Like, who are the robots who are those weird people that are like, I hate movies, I hate music? Like, who are these androids?
I know. So it's weird. My grandfather is one of these people he doesn't go to a movie theater. He has never gone to a movie theater. He does not like watching movies, period. And I'm like, how? Yeah. That is like 95% of everything that comes out of my mouth is like a quote from a movie. You know what I mean? It's like usually like Dumb and Dumber or something like that.
I think it's 100% for me. Yeah.
I'm telling you, but it's super weird because he's like, I don't want to pay money to see somebody else or to see somebody doing a bad job acting like somebody else. I'm like, okay, like crap. I'm like, I get it. Sure. But damn.
Back to whittling wood, Grandpa, and chill out. Right?
Dang. Like, that's crazy, man. I love going to the movies. You know what I'm saying? I love that stuff.
Wild. Who are these people? I mean, I know like people, I can understand like certain people who don't like comedians because they think they're mean. Like, I know kids these days are so woke, and yeah, I know this sounds like an old guy thing to say, but it's so true. I just had my kid tell me the other day, I hate comedy. I was like, what are you talking about? I was like, how can you hate something that is they're just making jokes to make people laugh? Like, have a good time.
Yeah. Like, I love comedy, and oh my God, man, some of the best things is just like watching somebody rip into somebody else. I love it. And especially when the other person is a good sport about it. You know what I mean? And can take the joke. Like watching like roasts and things like that. I think they're hilarious. Like, I really do.
It's like my favorite thing. And they're so brutal with each other. I mean, who are your favorite comedians? Who do you think right now are like your tops? Do you watch a lot of Netflix comedy?
I did watch. Yeah, I'm Shane Gillis.
Yep.
He's so funny.
He is.
And I think I find Shane Gillis funny because he's saying things that remind me of the 90s.
Yep.
Like now who sounds like an old man, right? But that's like it. It's like he's saying things that I'm like, oh wow, that joke would have hit so hard in 95. You know what I'm saying? Like, that is crazy. And a lot of people have a problem with Shane Gillis, you know, and all that, but I still love, like, I mean, Adam Sandler, Chris Rock, like all of those guys, you know what I mean? I think they're hilarious. Like David Spade, those guys, you know, like they're funny.
They're fantastic, man. I mean, who's a better duo than David Spade and Chris Farley back in the day? Talk about comedies, like, it's perfect.
It was gold, man. It was absolute gold. I think they all knew it, and I think they all ran with it. And I mean, Farley was a freaking genius.
He was
an absolute genius. For as troubled as a person he may have been, that man knew exactly how to make somebody smile. And it's like, that is just completely, it's so valuable. You know, I love that.
Well, him, and I always think of John Candy, because John Candy was that guy too. Like, when I watch Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, I don't even care if it's around. I mean, I could quote every single line in that movie, but I mean, obviously that those aren't pillows is like, right. And I was telling my wife the other day, like, when I was in the union as an electrician, I actually had a boss, right? You think in the union they treat you great, right? I had a boss. We traveled together. It was just him and I. We were doing some houses like Clear North, and he had the audacity to make me room with him in a big bed as we had pillow in the middle, and then he didn't even buy me dinner. Like, how is that even possible, right? I had to sleep with my boss, bro.
That is insane. The things we do for work, you know what I mean?
Wild. Yeah, obviously I'm not in the union. I mean, they talk about it being great, and then here I am sleeping with my boss, non-sexually, of course, as far as you guys know. right? It was a wild time.
Oh my God, that's funny. Oh my God.
So let's get back to the let's get back to Malvern Manor. I really do want to just have you be an ambassador here and tell people why this really is one of the best places to go if you were truly looking for ghosts, if you're looking for the paranormal, if you're looking for the experience of a true haunted place. Tell us more about Malvern Manor.
I think the coolest part about Malvern Manor, and this is so biased, but I mean, it has literally been 10 years, 10 years and 4 days since the first time I ever walked into this place. And ever since then, it's like we haven't touched anything. You know what I mean? Like everything is how we found it. Which is cool because I want people to experience the place the same way I did. Well, what's really cool about the place is the fact that it's like you can, I mean, have a disembodied voice call your name. You can have physical manipulation of objects and things like that can happen. But we also have the history to back up everything, which is really cool. It's a, it that's the good stuff to me. And so like one of the first things I did was, I mean, I invited the former nursing staff back here. Just walk me down memory lane. Let me know what a day to day was like here. And that was so freaking eye opening to me because I mean, crap, for 2 months, we had this one spirit, for an example. It was a female spirit, but she just kept calling herself Gracie. And so we're like, oh, well, okay, well, we'll just refer to her as Gracie. And it wasn't until those nurses came through and they're like, oh, and this was Gracie's room and all that. And I'm like, excuse me? Like, that's amazing to me. Like, wait a second. Now, obviously, you keep all this crap under your hat, you know what I mean, until they leave because you don't want to scare the straights, away. But still, it was, it was really, really cool. Being able to correlate things. And then it's like, oh, tell me more about Gracie, and learning everything. And then looking up all of this documentation and stuff like that, like with her specifically. And the fact that like the nursing staff, there were 3 nurses that sat with her for an hour. And during this hour, they documented 13 separate distinguishable personalities that came out of her because she was clinically diagnosed DID. But she also had schizophrenia on top of that. For her to present 13 separate personalities within an hour is medically fascinating.
Yeah.
Like for people with DID to even present 1 or 2, I mean, to transition like that can take days in some cases. She's presenting all of this in an hour. Give me a break.
Yeah.
Like that fascinates me. So it's like you really start to get to know who these people were, how they acted, what made them tick, things like that. And it becomes a family at that point in time. You know what I mean? But it's interesting to me because I hear this all the time. I really do. And I don't know what there is behind it or if there's anything to it. Numerous people, numerous people that have booked here will show up and they'll be like, you're never going to believe this. I've been dreaming about this place for the last 4 days. I'm like, interesting. They're like, I've never been here before, but yet I'm having dreams about this place. I'm like, I don't know how that works. I have no idea. But then it's like, once they leave, they'll get in contact with me again. I can't stop thinking about this place. This place is like calling to me. I need to go back. I have to go back. It's like, that's what it was for me. I was obsessed with this place and then just was lucky enough to get in on the purchase of it. You know what I mean? Like that's all it was. So yeah. Something knocked on the door. Did you hear it?
I thought I heard something. I thought you tapped the man. That's crazy. I saw you pause and look.
Yeah, like it's just like what the heck was that? I mean, the door is locked, and I know all the other doors are locked too. I'm the only dude with the keys, so I don't know what that was about.
You get a lot of shaking and different things. Like, do you ever have a door shake and move?
So it's super weird too, because I thought initially like the building does shake, and it's weird because at first I was like, oh, maybe it's just large machinery outside passing by, maybe going too fast or something like that, but it's rumbling the building. there have been times where it's literally so strong that it buckles your knees. You know what I mean? Like you like tilt. And I'm like, what the heck? And I've even got as far as being the weird guy, like knocking on the neighbors' doors and being like, hey, did you hear that? Or hey, did you feel that? Or what was that? And they're like, what are you talking about? You know what I mean? I'm like, awesome. This is great. This is going so well right now.
They're like, no, not again. Josh is coming over. He's
Right.
gonna,
Oh, God. Oh my God, man.
I
This
had
is
that when I went to the Sally house. I went and talked to the neighbors around, and of course they looked at me like this guy was like working out in his backyard. And I go strolling up to him, hey, I'm a podcast host from Lincoln. I'm here to investigate the place. And the guy looked at me like I had like a third head or something. Like, get out of here, buddy. You know?
Oh man. Yeah, it's always great. And it's like, oh boy. Yeah. I always dread like Christmas and Thanksgiving and things like that because I know like all of the kids that are there are going to have tons of questions for me and all of that stuff. Even some of the adults have some questions for me, but for the most part, the adults are just like, oh, how is the psycho going to answer this one? You know what I mean? Let's see what he has to say.
Is there a basement area there? Like, do you guys have a basement also? Do people go?
So, yeah. So there are two basements that are here. And you can tell, I will say, at one time, I think they were connected in some way, and then they sectioned it off, and so one basement kind of became more of like a workshop type area. I know the boiler system is down in there as well. So that's more of like a concrete type floor, more finished, if you will. The other side is just straight out of Texas Chainsaw Massacre. It's like dirt floor, low hanging pipes. It'll actively try and kill you. It's horrifying, but it's like, yeah. So there are two, and I mean, anybody that comes here has access to those as well. So yeah, I mean, there's weird stuff that happens down there as well. I just don't like spiders and snakes and crap like that, so I just stay away.
Oh, that's exactly why I wouldn't go down there. I know when we were in the attic, I know we heard what we felt was an audible growl. If we were up there, we sat quietly for I would say about 45 minutes as a group. And it wasn't people's stomach, we were testing everybody out, but I mean, it was pretty loud. Do you ever get growls up there?
So we do get growls. We get a lot of like weird scratching type noises. One story that jarred me because I had never heard anything like this before in my life. We had a group of ladies that were here. I think they were from like Minnesota, but I had gone out of town and they had called me and they're like, we're going to send you this clip. You have to hear this. And so I'm sitting down at my hotel room and they're like, what they did was they just took a recorder and set it at the top of the attic stairs and just left. They went to have dinner. Maybe 6 minutes into the clip itself, you start hearing what could only be described as a dog walking with like nails. You can hear the nails, you know what I mean? Which is odd because we don't have a dog here. And moreover, we don't have a dog in the attic. But you hear it start to sniff and it's getting closer to the recorder. And then you quite literally hear it start to growl like this nasty guttural. Like if this were a dog, if this were a physical dog, it would be a big mamma jamma. Wow. And it's growling. And at one point, it even took a break. At one point, it even stopped and started to pant like a dog would. And then right back into the growling. Then you start to hear it hit the recorder. Like it's smacking it around. And that jostling sound that you can hear on a recorder. It hits it and then boom, file ends. And I'm like, what? And they're like, that is straight out of the recorder. Like they didn't doctor it up or anything like that. That is literally start to finish the entire clip. It freaked me out.
Yeah.
I'm like, what the heck? Like, there's no dog up there.
No.
I've never heard that before. I've heard weird things before. I've done the very similar thing where I've set a recorder up there and left the building. I always say, give me 90 seconds to clear the building, and anything after that 90 seconds, you should be able to,
Yeah.
But I've heard footsteps approaching the recorder and then the file stops. Almost like somebody's walking up to it and like, nope, not today. But I'm like, nobody's living up there. Like, I know that for a fact as well. Like, I've literally been inside the walls of this place. There's nobody here. It's interesting to me. And it's almost like if I didn't hear it for myself, I never, ever would have believed that. They're like, oh, yeah, there was a dog. There's like a ghost dog.
Yeah.
Bull crap. Bull crap.
No way.
You know what I mean?
That happened to stop the file, or did it run out? Did it run out or did it stop the file?
Like they said that battery was still fully charged. Everything was good to go. It just was almost like if it were in fact hitting it, batting it back and forth or whatever, it just hit it just right to stop the file. I don't know. I'm like, God dang, like I wish I would have been here when they collected that device and then we could have, freaked out together. But
man, if that isn't a sale for, everybody, come to Malvern Manor. I mean, all you Lincoln people, I mean, we're talking a hop, skip, and a jump away. We're talking like a little over an hour away. There's a killer cafe just in front of it that we went to. What is it? The Salty Heifer.
Yeah, the Salty Heifer is literally in the front yard. You know what I mean? So,
we ate there, and it's just like you guys really got to go. And if you can do it, so I know you're a busy man. I really appreciate you being on the show, but just tell everybody about your day tours and what they can do to overnight and all that if you want to.
Yeah, sure. So we are open for day tours from noon until 3:00, Thursday through Sunday. Honestly, just walk right up, just walk up, have a tour. I show you around. It takes roughly 30 minutes, and then I just turn you loose and you guys can explore on your own. If anybody wanted to do like a nighttime investigation, if you go to, I'm going to try to not butcher this. It's malvernmanor.weebly.com. There is an interactive calendar right there that you can see what dates have already been booked and things like that. And so you can choose an open date and it will email me directly. And from there, I mean, we put you on the calendar and get you off and rolling. But yeah, like it's pretty simplistic, really. Like if people wanted to come and explore or come and stay for a night, yeah, absolutely, be my guest for sure.
Well, get on there, everybody. But by the time this airs, I will have already investigated overnight again with my family. We'll see how that goes. They're getting an Airbnb, so my wife and kids can go hide at some point. But I will be there the whole night with my crew, and we'll be combing the place. It'll be completely silent, and we're gonna love it because we think that we're gonna get some evidence, and I hope that we do. But I thank you so much for being on the show. I hope to have you on again sometime, and I hope that we can put together some sort of investigation together where we can do kind of like live interviews and everything. That'd be awesome, John.
Dude, yeah, like that would be absolutely my pleasure, bro. Yeah, and thank you for having me on this. This was a lot of fun.
The pleasure's all mine. I mean, you're like Johnny. I tell Johnny this. You guys are like these sneak celebrity. Like you guys are actually on like shows. You know what I mean? Things that we've seen on a bunch of stuff. I mean, I've watched it all. So, I mean, it's not like we're just talking to your run-of-the-mill, old guy has a ghost story with a cigarette in his mouth. I mean, you are like, you guys are legitimate investigators.
Yeah, we try. I'm like, I am still an old guy with a cigarette in my mouth, but still. But yeah, we do try. And I'm trying to not only prove, but disprove at the same time, like a very similar style to you guys, honestly.
Well, thank you so much for your time, man. I so appreciate you. And for all you ghouls and ghosts out there, I hope you guys enjoyed the whole spooktacular, the whole thing. You guys have a happy Halloween, and we will talk to you guys again on the other side.